Chiefs news, analysis, and opinion every day.
Howdy, if you were looking for some good news, keep looking, because the Kansas City Chiefs have added a player to their practice squad, which in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but who that player is and what position that player plays is a bit distressing at this point in the week. The Kansas City Chiefs have added Hal Presley to their practice squad. Hal Presley, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs. In an article titled "Chiefs Re-Sign 6'2" Rookie Wide Receiver Amid Injury Issues" from Heavy.com by Owen Crisafulli, we get the following. The Kansas City Chiefs opened the 2025 campaign with a disappointing 27-21 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. And even though they have only played one game, injury concerns are beginning to pop up across the roster. Perhaps the spot that has been hit the hardest is wide receiver, which is an issue the team had to deal with in 2024. With Rashee Rice being suspended for the first 6 games of the season and Jalen Royals being ruled out ahead of Week 1, the Chiefs were already shorthanded at wide receiver, but they took another big hit when Xavier Worthy was forced out of the game on the first drive with a shoulder injury. With his Week 2 status in doubt, Kansas City opted to reunite with Hal Presley on Tuesday. Presley didn't hear his name called in the 2025 NFL Draft, but he quickly signed with the Buffalo Bills as an undrafted free agent. He didn't last long with them, though, as he ended up getting released after rookie minicamp. That led to the Chiefs signing him ahead of training camp, where he flashed his potential on several occasions. It wasn't much of a surprise to see Presley get released as part of the team's final roster cuts, but he ended up latching on with their practice squad. Again, he didn't stick around for very long, as Kansas City ended up releasing him one day after signing him to their practice squad, and he's spent the past couple of weeks waiting for his next opportunity. With the Chiefs getting hit hard by injuries at wide receiver, they are looking for some more depth, which led them back to Presley. On Tuesday, Presley found his way back to Kansas City, re-signing with its practice squad as an emergency option in the event more injuries pop up at the wide receiver spot moving forward. The issue is the Kansas City Chiefs have several wide receivers on their roster. Why would they need another one on their practice squad? They have a couple on the practice squad as well. Well, it would seem that perhaps Xavier Worthy is not going to be good to go versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That is how things would seem, at least at this point. So, Hal Presley being signed. So in order to make room for Hal Presley on the roster, they had to cut someone from the practice squad. They cut Cole Christiansen. Well, Cole Christiansen has played a lot of football for this team. It would be incumbent upon the Chiefs to keep as many contributors on their practice squad as possible, and the defense itself struggled. The special teams struggled a little bit, I think, in kickoff coverage as well. So what we're looking at here is a guy being brought in that might have to play on the roster. There might be an opening for a wide receiver on the 53. Why? Well, if someone goes down with injury, sometimes they are added to the IR. Adding someone to the IR means that they are taken off of the 53, which allows someone to bump up from the practice squad. And with Xavier Worthy, the shoulder injury, I think, looked like a 3 to 6 week thing. So, that possibly being the case, Xavier Worthy possibly not being able to go, the Kansas City Chiefs possibly need another option at the wide receiver position. Now, looking at Hal Presley, what are we looking at? Well, here is his RAS, and we're going to compare him to another player that will either make you giddy or will make you drop your head in disappointment. He goes 6'2", 210 pounds, 11 reps on the bench press, 34.5-inch vertical, 10-foot 2-inch broad jump, a 4.56 40-yard dash unofficial, a 1.60 10-yard split, a 4.35 short shuttle, and a 7.06 three-cone drill. Sort of a standard issue, big-bodied wide receiver here. Not anything that's going to make your jaw drop, but somebody that we saw get a little bit of chemistry with the Kansas City Chiefs and was able to turn some heads in training camp. Maybe not enough to make the 53, maybe not enough to make the practice squad, but it was a crunch on that practice squad, a crunch that was exacerbated by cutting a starting defensive tackle that then refused, apparently, supposedly, allegedly, to sign on the practice squad in Mike Pennell. But who does he remind me of physically? None other than Demarcus Robinson. You had Demarcus Robinson 6'1", he is 6'2". Hal Presley is 210. Demarcus Robinson was 203. You had a 34.5-inch vert for Demarcus Robinson, 34.5-inch vert for Hal Presley, a 10'3" broad jump for Demarcus Robinson, a 10'2" broad jump for Hal Presley. Demarcus Robinson ran a 4.59 40-yard dash compared to the 4.56 of Hal Presley. Demarcus Robinson had a 1.59 10-yard split compared to the 1.60 of Hal Presley. And then the short shuttle of 4.19 was better for Demarcus Robinson than the 4.35. And the three-cone drill of 6.77 was better than Hal Presley's 7.06. Still, this is a wide receiver that does kind of fit into that mold of a bigger type of guy that is able to run some of these maybe underneath routes, things like that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the injury report over the next few days, because the Chiefs have been lately a little bit hesitant to put as much information out there, certainly as you or I would like, but definitely not as much information as their opponents would like. And the wide receiver spot for these Chiefs is getting thin already in the season, starting the year with 3 of their top 4 wide receivers out, yet we still had Hollywood Brown, who had nearly a 100-yard game. You still had Juju Smith-Schuster, who was able to come up with some clutch catches. You still had Tyquan Thornton, who came up with a big completion down the field that we were hoping to see return. It was not without Xavier Worthy, an offense without any pop. Even without Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs had 3 passing plays of over 30 yards, including a 38-yard rumble by Travis Kelce into the end zone. So they're not quite as destitute as they were last season. Hollywood Brown is more seasoned, obviously, but also a better pro right now than was Xavier Worthy last year at this time. In order to really sort of see how things are going, we're going to have to get a look at this offense versus the Eagles too. The Eagles gave up 20 points to the Cowboys. They didn't have the best game that night. They did look beatable. They were almost beatable by the Cowboys. And I think that the Chiefs, even without 3 of the top 4 wide receivers, are a better team than the Cowboys. So the Chiefs, if the same Eagles team shows up, if the same Kansas City Chiefs team shows up, the Chiefs will still have an opportunity to win this game. It was not the juggernaut Eagles that they were last season that rolled through the Super Bowl over, gosh, I can't remember who the Eagles beat in the Super Bowl. It's not coming to me right now, but I remember it being a fairly substantial victory for them. Anyway, the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is not how you wanted to start the season. This is, yet again, happening to Patrick Mahomes and this offense. No matter how many of the Hal Presleys of the world they bring in, it's not going to make the difference that they need. We cannot get through these first few weeks soon enough until Rashee Rice returns to the lineup. Hopefully, there is no funny business for him between now and then. But Hal Presley is a guy that I think can add meaningful reps to a team. He is a guy that I think can be a bottom of the roster guy. It is confounding to see the Chiefs cut Cole Christiansen probably they can get him back, right? They've had no problem getting him back in the past. Probably he doesn't end up on anyone else's roster. So they can re-sign him to the practice squad and then get those 2 elevations out of him again. But very difficult to really comprehend exactly what is going on with that, especially when there are other wide receivers on this team. Nico Remigio, I think, got like 2 snaps at wide receiver or something. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.